welcome again to my channel Academia Search. This is part 2 of our deep dive into the Mahabharata with reference to Game of Dicing and its sequel from Mahabharata. And in the last video we have seen the basic foregrounding, the background, the Hindu scriptures from where this epic is coming from, the family tree of the Kuru dynasty, the introduction of Game of Dicing and its sequel. So today we are going to explore and continue Game of Dicing, the events that followed and how they are shaping the destiny of Pandavas and Kauravas. If you have missed the first part, make sure to check out the link above the screen. And without further ado, let's jump in. So to begin with, we have already seen the Kuru dynasty, the family tree of the Kuru dynasty. To recap, I have just taken the major characters. Here is the brief overview of the major branch or the main branches of the Kuru family tree. It begins with King Santanu, and he is married to two wives. Ganga, from Ganga he has Bhishma, who is also known as Devvrat and vowing celibacy, and he did not ascend the throne. From the second marriage, Satyavati, he has two sons, Chitrangad and Vichitravid. Chitrangad became the king but died young in battle, and Vichitravid became the king but he died without heirs. So the sons of Vichitravid are actually the practice of niyog was performed from sage Vyas, the Satyavati's son, and from there we see Dhritarashtra is born and Pandu is born. So Pandu is born through Ambalika, Dhritarashtra is born through Ambika, and Vidur is also born from a maid named Panchali, not to be confused again with Draupadi, and he is not entitled to throne as he is the son of a maid. So descendants of Dhritarashtra, we see 100 sons from Gandhari and one daughter. I missed the daughter's name, Dusala, which we have seen in the previous slide. Now they are collectively known as Kauravas, and the sons of Pandu are collectively known as Pandavas. So from Pandu we see he has two wives. From Kunti he has Yudhishthir, Bhim and Arjun, and from Madri he has Nakul and Sahadev. So these are the important characters, and these are the two opponent parties which we find in Kurukshetra war face to face, and they are and also one of the major characters we see is Sakuni. He is the Gandhari's brother, and here he also plays the vital role for the clash between Pandavas and Kauravas. So what this game of dicing is doing, the title itself and the sequel of dicing, these two episodes are clearly conveying and focusing on the most important moments in Mahabharata and the themes of fate, morality, deception, or our underlying issues and conflicts. So focusing on the game of dicing from the Sabha Parv, that is the book of assembly hall, where Kauravas are inviting the Pandavas to a game of dice in Hastinapur's royal court. And this episode is exploring the downfall of Yudhishthir and the subsequent events that is shaping the narrative. So this is the turning point of Mahabharata, the game of dice. Again, the development of the game, this episode is setting the motion, and that is leading to Kurukshetra war later. So there is a betrayal and downfall. This game is a trap which is laid by Duryodhan and Sakuni to defeat the Pandavas without going into battle, and this highlights the theme of deceit and the failure of dharma, the role of fate. All these are happening in this episode. So Game of Dicing is an important episode in this epic, and it is happening between Pandavas and Kauravas. Kauravas, led by Duryodhan, the mastermind is Shakuni, is sending the invite to Pandavas from Hastinapur for a friendly game of dice. So on the surface it is appearing like a cordial invitation that is engaging in royal pastime. and Vidur is appointed to send the invitation. However, in Yudhishthir is compelled to accept this because in ancient Indian customs, a royal invitation could not be refused because it would be a kind of dishonor to the throne. So there is the internal conflict which we see in Yudhishthir because of his adherence to dharma, and he is also well aware that there might be potential risks and threats of this game. So yet he has the obligation for kingship and he is accepting this invitation. So also we see the certain key flaws that are also known as hamartia of this character Yudhishthir, because Yudhishthir has the addiction of gambling. So despite his wisdom, righteousness and adherence to dharma, this flaw is leading him to accept the challenge. One of the reasons is for accepting the challenge is also his tragic flaw. So his inability to control this impulse ultimately is leading to the catastrophic consequence for himself and for his family. Also, he has the right adherence to dharma. So there is a rigid interpretation of dharma according to Yudhishthir, and Yudhishthir feels obligated and to kind of uphold these rules of hospitality and royal duty, and which forces him to accept the invitation. So even though he is knowing that it might be a trap, it might be a dangerous thing for their family and for himself, for his kingdom, this inflexible approach to moral duty is blinding him. So here this blind and this rigid inflexibility approach of Yudhishthir, this point and this tragic flaw, Shakuni and Duryodhan is taking advantage of this weakness of Yudhishthir. Now there are some points to note. Shakuni, Duryodhan's uncle, he is also the cunning and manipulative uncle of the Kauravas. He is playing the key part in manipulating the game using the loaded dice and is ensuring that how Yudhishthir loses the game. So Shakuni is the embodiment of moral corruption. And what do we understand by this term loaded dice? In some version of the epic, it depicts that Shakuni is fashioning this dice from the bones of his deceased father. And ultimately what will happen, because the loaded dice is made of his deceased father, from the bones of his deceased father, it will yield the desired outcome which will be in favor of Shakuni. So this reflection of his mastery in manipulation and the ability to control the situation is depicted here. Now Shakuni is the definitely the mastermind of this game. He is the key architect behind this game of dice, and he is also known for his deceitful nature, using the game in the strategic move to bring down the Pandavas. So there is a psychological manipulation also which is going on here, and Shakuni knows very well that Yudhishthir has that sense of dharma which will actually stop him from quitting the game. And even if he is losing, he will not stop. So Yudhishthir is compelled to continue with this game because Shakuni is trying to exploit Yudhishthir's virtue as his weakness, and Yudhishthir himself, his weakness is for gambling. So we see that Pandava's defeat is inevitable here. Now this game has symbolic importance, and this game is not about just winning or losing the material wealth. Rather, it is reflecting some of the larger cosmic principles. To begin with, fate versus free will. Now, Yudhishthir has a deep sense of belief in fate, and it is actually making him to continue with playing. Even though he knows that this continuation of the game is the trap, the hole which he is falling into. But this game is actually symbolizing the external struggle between fate and free will. So Yudhishthir is believing that everything is predestined by fate, and which is actually reflecting his resignation to his own losses. Next is moral weakness. So gambling is traditionally seen as a vice and it's not seen as a virtue. So this game of dice is highlighting the flaws even in the righteous men like Yudhishthir. And this shows his personal weakness that can lead to one's downfall regardless of their virtue. Next is dharma and adharma. So Mahabharata is constantly exploring the tension between dharma, that is the righteous duty, and adharma, that is unrighteous duty. So this in this episode, Yudhishthir's rigid adherence to dharma is actually compelling him to accept the challenge, while the Kauravas are actually employing adharma through deceit in this game. Next is honor and social pressure. Yudhishthir has the sense of royal duty and honor, and it is playing a significant role in his decision to participate. Social pressure and the weight of maintaining his reputation as just and honorable king pushes him to make irrational decisions. And what is the irrational decision? That he is agreeing to this game. Despite the reservations, he is agreeing to it. Now, there are important key characters in this epic, especially in reference to this episode Game of Dice and its sequel. But we need to understand that from the exam perspective, that four major characters that are engrossed in this play and mainly affected by this play are, to begin with, first is Yudhishthir. He is known for the epitome of dharma, that is the righteousness, and he is a very virtuous king. And one of his tragic flaw, as we have seen, is his addiction to gambling. Despite his wisdom, his adherence to rules of the games leads to his ruin. Second important character we know is Sakuni, the mastermind of this game, and this game is a trap for Pandavas, and he is Duryodhan's uncle from Gandhari, and he is manipulating this game of dice to ensure Yudhishthir's downfall, and he is also symbolizing deceit, playing a central role in the Pandavas' destruction. Next we have is Duryodhan. He is the eldest Kaurava and a rival of the Pandavas. He is driven by envy and hatred and towards Pandavas. He covets their kingdom and uses the dice game to dispossess them from the throne. And next character we have, who is majorly affected by this game of dice, Draupadi. She is the wife of the Pandavas. Her humiliation is very important because this humiliation in the dice hall actually is the pivotal moment that is highlighting gender dynamics in the epic, and Draupadi's questioning of dharma and her demand for justice are the key aspects of this episode, and her humiliation and disrobing is kind of leading to one of the major, it is working like a catalyst, and it is working for the Kurukshetra war. So it is demanding the Kurukshetra war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Her humiliation plays an important role for this. Now, here we will be just looking into how sequentially Yudhishthir is losing through this game. To begin with, first he wagers his kingdom and wealth, and he is losing all his all his wealth, all his position with Sakuni's manipulation. Second, he's waging his brothers Nakul, Sahadev, Arjun, Bhim, and one by one he loses all. Then he wagers himself, and he is losing himself and becoming a slave of the Kauravas. He is losing his freedom. And finally, in the final act of desperation, Yudhishthir wagers Draupadi, the queen of the Pandavas, which is leading to her humiliation. And this is showing that how his addiction, Yudhishthir's addiction and compulsion to lead the game is actually ruining him. So his actions are actually leading to the degradation of the family and honor. So here we know that the last wager and the ultimate wager is Draupadi, and this is done by Yudhishthir, the eldest of the Pandavas, who is losing everything in the game of dice to Duryodhan, including his kingdom, wealth, and brothers, and also himself. With the loss of Draupadi, what is happening here? Draupadi is dragged into the royal court by Dusasan, the younger brother of Duryodhan, and she is subjected to humiliation, which is an attempt to disrobe her in public. So Draupadi is questioning, and she is posing a very powerful question to the court when she is asking, whom did Yudhishthir lose first, himself or me? This question echoes the complexities of dharma and raises the fundamental questions about ownership, human dignity, and women's agency. So her quest is a direct challenge to the assembly hall and the ethical codes that govern the relation between husband and wife, master and slave. So in this episode, we see that Draupadi is questioning whether Yudhishthir has the moral right to stake her after losing his own freedom. And also, she's effectively challenging the patriarchal assumptions that wives are the mere properties of their husbands. So this act of defiance is a crucial assertion of female agency in a male-dominated society. Hide myself so that you can have a clear view. Now we see the silence of the court, especially the elders' silence in the court. We include Bhishma, Guru Drona, King Dhritarashtra. They are all representing a failure of moral responsibility. And these figures are often considered the embodiments of wisdom and authority, yet they are present and doing nothing to stop the injustice that is unfolding before them. So Bhishma is arguing that he is unable to judge whether Draupadi was rightfully wagered, and that is actually showing the moral paralysis that is gripping the assembly hall. Now Duryodhan also, he is actually humiliating Draupadi and asserting his power over Pandavas to avenge his personal grievances. Karna, another pivotal figure in the disrobing, he is adding fuel to this, and he is saying Draupadi as a whore for having multiple husbands. Thus, he is dehumanizing her and justifying her violation in the eyes of the court. And this moment is actually making Draupadi as a mere object of male honor and revenge. So this episode is highlighting how gender violence is used as a tool to assert dominance, where the humiliation of a woman is symbolizing the defeat of the male protectors. So Draupadi's vulnerability is not only an affront of her personal dignity, but it is symbolic assault on the Pandavas' masculinity and honor also. So here we see Krishna's divine interpretation and justice when he is coming. As Draupadi is praying for divine interpretation and intervention over here, her honor, when her honor is at stake, Krishna is manifesting as a protector and miraculously providing her with the unending supply of the cloth, and that is preventing her disrobing. So Krishna's intervention is actually restoring Draupadi's dignity and representing divine justice in the face of human moral failure. So here we see that Draupadi's resilience in the face of such extreme violence also is standing as a testament of enduring spirit of resistance against injustice. So we revised the family tree of Kuru dynasty. We also saw the significance of the game of dice and the sequel in brief. Also, the introduction of the game of dice, we talked about it. And what are the major points to remember? Who are the key characters? And in reference to the in reference to Draupadi, the disrobing episode of disrobing scene of Draupadi. So these are important, you have to keep in mind from the exam perspective. So let's quickly dive into the questions, and these are the probable and potential questions for your exam perspective. It will be coming as short note or long question as well. Symbolic and narrative significance of the game of dice episode within the larger context of dharma, fate, and human agency. Analyze. Next, discuss the role of key characters such as Yudhishthir, Duryodhan, and Shakuni in shaping the outcome of the game. How this episode is reflecting the ethical dilemmas, notion of power, and the family politics that is pervading the epic. We have seen the intervention of Krishna. Question might be, discuss the role of divine intervention in disrobing scene. Next we have is, how does this episode highlight the breakdown of dharma, that is moral duty, in the Kaurava court? Next question might be, examine how Draupadi's treatment during and after the game represents gendered violence and the undermining of dharma. Thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed the content and want to explore more about Mahabharata or any other epic tales, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with others, and subscribe to the channel for more content. And also stay tuned, I'll be coming back with its sequel to dive even deeper into what is happening after the game of dice and what the epic journey is unfolding. In the meantime, let me know in the comment section what you think the biggest lesson from this game of dice is. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious and happy learning, all of you.